Now this is the account of the reign of Anshar and the kings who followed. When the law was changed, the other princes were contending. Words there were, rebellion there was not. As his spouse, Anshar a half-sister chose. He made her first wife. By the name Kishar she was called. Thus was by this law the dynasty continued. In the reign of Anshar, the fields diminished their yields. Fruits and grains lost abundance. From circuit to circuit, nearing the sun, heat grew stronger, and in the faraway abode, coolness was more biting. In Agade, the throne city, the king, those of great understanding, assembled. Learned servants, those of great knowledge, to inquire were commanded. The land and the soil they examined, the lakes and streams they put to the test. It had happened before, some were giving an answer. Nibiru in the past, colder or warmer, has grown. A destiny it is, in the circuit of Nibiru embedded. Others of knowledge, the circuit observing, Nibiru's destiny to blame did not consider. In the atmosphere, a breaching had occurred. That was their finding. Volcanoes, the atmosphere's forebearers, less belching, were spitting up. Nibiru's air has thinner been made. The protective shield has been diminished. In the reign of Anshar and Kishar, pestilences of field made appearance. Toiled could them not overcome. Their son, Anshar, then the throned ascendant of the dynasty, the sixth he was. Lordly master of the Shar, the name did signify. With great understanding he was born. With much learning he mastered much knowledge. To remedy the afflictions, ways he sought. Of Nibiru's heavenly circuit he made much study. In its loop of the sun's family, 5 members it embraced, planets of dazzling beauty. For cures to the afflictions their atmosphere he caused to be examined. To each he gave a name. Ancestral forefathers he honored. As heavenly couples him he considered. On and onto the twin-like planets he called the first 2 to be encountered. Beyond, in Nibiru's circuit were Anshar and Kishar, in their size the largest. As a messenger, Gaga, among the others coursed, sometimes first Nibiru to meet. 5 in all were Nibiru's heavenly greeters, as the sun it circled. Beyond, like a boundary, the hammered bracelet the sun encircled. As a guardian of the heavens' forbidden region, with havoc it protected. Other children of the sun, 4 in number, from intrusion the bracelet shielded. So he's talking about Uranus, Neptune, Saturn, Jupiter, and then Gaga is Pluto. And then he talks about the hammered bracelet, which is the asteroid belt, and then the 4 planets on the inside with the sun. What atmospheres they possessed by observation and with celestial chariots intensely were examined. The findings were astounding, the discoveries confusing. From circuit to circuit, Nibiru's atmosphere more breaching suffered, and the councils of the learned cures were avidly debated. Ways to bandage the wound were urgently considered. A new shield to embrace the planet was attempted. All that was thrust up back to the ground came down. In the councils of the learned, the belching volcanoes were studied. The atmosphere by belching volcanoes having been created, its wound by their diminished belching had come to be. Let with invention new belching be encouraged. Let volcanoes spew again. One savant group was saying, how the feat to achieve, with what tools more belching to attain, none the king could inform. In the reign of Anshar, the breach in the skies grew bigger. Rains were withheld. Winds blew harder. Springs from the depths did not arise. In the lands there was an accusation. The breasts of mothers were dry. In the palace there was dryness, and a cursation therein took hold. As his first wife, Anshar, a half-sister, did espouse, by the law of the seed abiding. Ninshar was she called, of the Shars the lady. A son she did not bear. By a concubine to Anshar a son was born, the firstborn son he was. By Ninshar, first wife and half-sister, a son was not brought forth. By the law of succession, the concubine's son the throne ascended. The seventh to reign he was. Du-Uru was his royal name. In the dwelling place fashioned was its meaning. In the house of concubines, not in the palace, was he indeed conceived. As his spouse, a maiden from his youth beloved, Du-Uru chose. By love, not by seed, a first wife he selected. Da-Uru was her royal name. She who is by my side was the meaning. In the royal court, confusion was rampant. Sons were not heirs, wives were not half-sisters. In the land, suffering was increasing. The fields forgot their abundance. Among the people, fertility was diminished. In the palace, fertility was absent. Neither son nor daughter was brought forth. Of An's seed, 7 were the rulers. Then of his seed the throne was dry. Da-Uru, a child at the palace gateway found. As a son, she embraced him. Du-Uru, in the end, as a son, him adopted. Legal heir, him decreed. Lahama, meaning dryness, was his given name. In the palace, the princes were grumbling. In the council of counselors, there were complaints. In the end, Lahama, the throne ascended. Though not of An's seed, he was the 8th to reign. In the councils of the learned, to heal the breach, there were 2 suggestions. One was to use a metal. Gold was its name. On Nibiru, it was greatly rare. Within the hammered bracelet, it was abundant. It was the only substance that to the finest powder could be ground. Lofted high to heaven, suspended it could remain. Thus, with replenishments, the breach it would heal, protection make better. Let celestial boats be built, let a celestial fleet the gold to Nibiru bring over. Let weapons of terror be created, was the other suggestion. Weapons that the ground shake loose, the mountains split asunder, with missiles to the volcanoes to attack, their dormancy to bestir, their belching to increase, the atmosphere to replenish, the breach to make disappear. So there's 2 sides kind of battling each other. One says gold is the answer. Let's suspend it up in the atmosphere. And the other people are like, no, let's build weapons of terror and blow the shit out of the ground and see if we can get the volcanoes to erupt again. For a decision, Lahama was too feeble. What choice to make he knew not. 1 circuit Nibiru completed. 2 Shars Nibiru to count continued. In the fields, affliction was not diminished. By volcanic belching, the atmosphere was not repaired. A 3rd Shar passed. A 4th was counted. Gold was not obtained. Now remember, a Shar is the circuit of Nibiru, and it takes 3,600 of our Earth years for it to do 1 of its years. So every time it says Shar or circuit, it means 3,600 Earth years. In the land, strife was abundant. Food and water were not abundant. In the land, unity was gone. Accusations were abundant. In the royal court, savants were coming and going. Counselors were rushing in and rushing out. The king, to their words, paid no attention. Counsel from his spouse he only sought. Lahama was her name. If destiny it be, let us beseech the great creator of all. To the king, she said, beseeching, not actings, provide the only hope. So they're talking about God, and they were looking to beseech God for the answer. So all of these savants, these educated people are coming in and out of the courtroom to try to figure out what's going on. But the king consults his wife, and she says, let's consult God. Let's not do anything but ask him. In the royal court, the princes were astir. At the king, accusations were directed. Foolishly, unreasoning, greater calamities instead of cure, he brought forth. From the olden storehouses, weapons were retrieved. Of a rebellion, there was much speaking. A prince in the royal palace was the first to take up arms. By words of promise, the other princes he agitated. Alalu was his name. Let Lahama be the king no more, he shouted. Let decision supplant hesitation. Come, let us unnerve the king in his dwelling. Let him the throne abandon. The princes to his words gave heed. The gate of the palace they rushed. To the throne room, its entrance restricted, like onrushing waters they went. To the tower of the palace the king escaped. Alalu was him pursuing. In the tower there was a struggle. Lahama fell down to his death. Lahama is no more, Alalu shouted. The king is no more, with glee he announced, with glee. To the throne room Alalu rushed. On the throne he himself seated. Without right or counsel, a king he himself pronounced. In the land unity was lost. Some by the death of Lahama rejoiced. Others by Alalu's deeds were saddened. So in this text, we hear many different names. There is this royal kingship on Nibiru, and their law of succession is the same law that you read about in the Bible. It has to do with DNA. It has to do with mitochondrial DNA. If a king marries his half-sister, that offspring would be first to take the throne because it has more royal blood in it. But I thought it was very interesting hearing how their atmosphere was diminishing and they were seeking. Now, this is thousands and thousands of years. I can't remember what it said, if it was 4 or 6 shars had went by. So each one of those shars is 3,600 Earth years, and they're trying to figure out how to fix their dwindling atmosphere. There's one side that's saying, let's shoot nuclear bombs into the volcanoes to make them belch more. And then the other side was saying, hey, let's go into the asteroid belt to those 4 planets closest to the sun, and let's see if there's gold there, because we can turn gold into monoatomic gold, and it will stay suspended in the atmosphere, and it will heal the breach. One other thing to consider is that they named all of the planets in our solar system after their previous kings and rulers. So you have On and Onto, which is Uranus and Neptune. You have Gaga, which is Pluto, the messenger. Lahamu is the planet we call Venus, and Lamu is Mars. And the moon is Kingu. I'm sorry, I can't remember if I said that or not. Thanks for listening. Hope you guys have a great day. Love you.